It's from Regenera. He says, hey, Ren, I hope you're doing well. I have some questions. Does the label still do cross-collateralization? And what are the fees they take? Does your artist need to be in on all the negotiations with the people? Okay, that subject, it's a great question, Regina Nera. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. That's actually a great question. So let me talk about this a little bit, and then I want to play you a video that deals with this issue. Do labels still do cross-collateralization? Yes. And I'm going to show you a video that's going to explain that a little bit for you. And what are the fees they take? There are all kinds of deductions that are come off the top before you actually receive a royalty check. And it's something that comes up all the time. So one of the lessons we have in our course here, let me go, actually give me ME2 here, code. I'm going to show the folks here. There's our web course once you've signed up, and I'm going to show you something here. So we're talking about recoupment here, and that's a record label issue. Okay, Regenera, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Code. If not, I'll apologize up front. And one of the things that we talk about in our course is record deals and how they actually operate. So your question really deals with one of the core elements of a record deal, which is this notion of recoupment and when you actually get paid some royalty. So if you notice here, there is strangely enough, there you have a lesson on record recoupment. So what I'd like to do for you right now is, because you haven't bought the course, maybe you don't have the money, maybe you don't know about it, maybe you're not sure it's worth anything yet, I want to give you a little preview from our course that deals with this issue, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more when we're done. Cody, take it away. Here's why your royalties are always less than what you might have expected. The concept is called recoupment, and it's an important idea to get your arms around because it's going to come up a lot in this discussion about record deals. Here's how it works. Those advances you got when you signed to the label are recoupable against your future royalties. What that means is that whatever royalties you earn on records sold will not be paid until you recoup those advances. So if you've earned more in royalties than you've taken in advances, then your account is recouped and everything is good. You'll be seeing a royalty check every 6 months. If, on the other hand, you've taken more in advances than you've earned in royalties, you are unrecouped and your royalty account will be in a quote-unquote deficit position. That unrecouped balance will follow you around from one album to the next until it's recouped or you're dropped from the label. The longer it takes an act to break, the more difficult it is to actually ever earn royalties. Why? Recoupable expenses. Those recording costs are not the only costs that are recoupable against your royalties. Some of the biggest costs of marketing your records are charged against your royalties as well. Things like tour support, the cost of making videos, the cost of independent radio promotion to take those singles to radio. Outside PR firms are just a few of those recoupable items. Having to recoup these huge costs has a big impact on your bottom line. In my own experience, I've witnessed bands that have sold 1 million records only to find out that they were almost recouped. You want to talk about a vibe killer? Try that one on for size. I want to clarify a common misconception that lots of folks have when we refer to this unrecouped balance. Over the years, I've had lots of artists ask me if they owed the label the money for that unrecouped balance. The answer is no. In reality, you do not owe them anything if the deal does not work out. They can drop you from the label, but you won't be getting calls from a collection agency or emptying the trash for your A&R guy to settle the debt. The money they laid out was always at risk, and if you don't earn enough royalties, that's tough luck for the label, but you don't have to pay them back. All right, that's one of the brutal lessons of the music business, that word recoupment, right? And I think it's one of the things, Regenera, that really, it confuses artists, and it's one of the reasons I think at the end of the day, having worked inside a label and then worked as a manager for years, I think I can understand why artists are sometimes suspicious of the record companies because they sell 1 million records, and let's imagine they had a royalty of $1 a record. They think they got $1 million coming, and so you sell 1 million records, and you find out that, oh my God, we didn't make any royalties. How does that happen, Mr. Manager? And it's something I had to discuss numerous times with all the bands I work with, and in only one of them, Incubus, did it ever really make a difference. But it's an important concept there to understand, and we'll have another little video we'll play a little later about that whole idea of money, winning, and opinion, and so forth. You also had another question on there about, does your artist need to be at all the meetings, Regenera, about money and contracts and stuff? I suppose if the artist really wants to be there, it's their life, it's their career. They should certainly be entitled to do it. I can tell you that in most cases, though, these conversations tend to be very tedious. They tend to be very, detail-oriented about stuff that most people wouldn't care about. So, when it comes to finance meetings, I think the most important finance meeting with the band is the one at the end of the year that talks about how much everybody made and who made what and why, and whether everybody's happy with it, right? As far as taking artists to those finance meetings when you're talking about business, I think for artists, and I'm speaking to the artists out there now, it can sometimes be a little unsettling because these things are all about money. And so sometimes when you're talking about money and negotiating about money, it would be very easy to take it personal, some of the stuff that's really just strictly business. So I think in general, most artists probably don't love it, going to those meetings, and if you don't love it and you're really not going to be deep down in it, I would recommend you just let your professionals handle that, your attorney and your manager, and let them come back to you with the really important points that need to be approved by the band, So that's my feeling on it there anyway. So that is recoupment, which is one of the important concepts for you to understand, and it's the reason most artists don't make as much money. Let me finish that, by the way. I just thought. Cross-collateralization, for the folks that don't quite understand what that means, is if at the end of one of these cycles you are quote-unquote unrecouped and you have an unrecouped balance, that tacks on to the next record. And so that's why, again, you can see bands going 2 or 3 records being reasonably successful, it would appear, and not making any real money. So that hopefully answers her question there. So that's recoupment.